Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 54 of D.A.R.C, or Does Anyone Really Care? The review series for Gran Turismo's underappreciated models. And in this particular episode, we're featuring a car which, as has happened before, actually, in the D.A.R.C series, I never drove until trying out vehicles for the series. It's the Vauxhall or Opel Tigra. This is a car which I've never been a fan of. It's kind of a little cult favourite car because I know it does have a strong following in real life among that relatively niched group of people who love the car. But on the game, you don't see people using the Tigra, either the Opel or the Vauxhall version, that often. So, is it a case of just being a useless car, or is it actually worth considering? Well, it's in the series, so obviously it is worth considering. So why is it here? Well, the reason why it's here is because Vauxhall has a knack for making sleeper cars. Not many of them are featured on the game, but in real life, Vauxhall has made quite a few sleeper cars over the years, cars which are a lot quicker and more powerful than people give them credit for. Very few of those are actually featured on the game though. The Vectra, not really. The Corsa, kind of. The Tigra, certainly. Because this car does not look as good as it actually is. Now, it's not a monster around the track by any means. It's no Polo GTI or some other OP vehicle like that. But it is worthy of consideration in its own way. Now, it sits at 474 pp, which means that for that kind of pp racing, it sits almost perfectly for the 475 pp level. Not quite, but close enough. As far as the engine, it's powered by a 1.6 litre turbo, it's front-wheel drive, and it is of course a coupe. It's a relatively compact car. It has a two-seater body style, very compact, carries its weight relatively low, it's pretty narrow, pretty short, and not overly tall. It produces 269 horsepower, fully tuned, and 220 pound-feet of torque. So, as I said, it's not a monster by any means, but that's certainly not bad for a car of its size. And that's not bad for a car of its weight either, because the Tigra only weighs 862 kilos with the full weight loss package, meaning that it is a seriously lightweight little coupe. Now, it doesn't really have that many natural rivals on Gran Turismo. There aren't that many small coupes featured on the game. You could always compare it to stuff like some of the lower MX-5s or MR2s, but really, it's almost in a class of its own. There are one or two others, such as the Toyota Ciro with its gull-wing doors, but apart from that, there's really not much in a similar category to the Tigra. As far as price, it sits at just under 30,000 credits, so for what it is and for the way it looks, it kind of sounds a little bit expensive. But I would say, yeah, perhaps a little bit, but certainly not overly expensive. 30 grand isn't a huge amount of money on Gran Turismo. That's a very easy amount of money to earn. Just do the Like the Wind event once, and you can buy quite a few of these cars, so it's not really that much money to fork out in the long run. Now, as far as horsepower per tonne, it puts out 312, thanks primarily to that really low weight. And as far as performance, well, it's a car that weighs 862 kilos, is ultra small, has a two-door body style and front-wheel drive. So it's going to be good around corners, and it certainly is. Now, it's not necessarily the nimblest of front-wheel drive cars, because as with some of the other D.A.R.C vehicles in the series, it's not really designed to be taking corners at that kind of speed. It's a car that's more about aesthetics than actual performance. In real life, the Tigra isn't an overly quick machine. It can be made quick, but it's not that quick as standard. It's kind of like an MR2 or an MX-5. It's more about that affordable, fun package rather than being fast in the strict sense. So it's not going to take corners like a Clio RS or anything like that, but it can certainly corner very well, and for a car as unique as it is, it can actually compete with stuff like lower level hot hatches and coupes, because sometimes when a vehicle is overly niched, it tends to mean, or can mean, that it's not that good. Because if it doesn't have that many real rivals, it can sometimes cause the car to kind of lack effectiveness. Kind of like the Red Bull Junior. It's in a bit of a no man's land. Its PP is too high for it to be any good against that kind of territory, whereas the performance at the same time doesn't really allow it to compete with anything, really. It's completely in a class of its own. This car isn't like that. It could very easily be, but thankfully it's not. The fact that it is a front-wheel drive means that you can use it against typical front-wheel drive production hatches, and you will have an advantage around corners because of the car's lower centre of gravity and being a shorter, narrower, slightly more aerodynamic and sleeker car with a little bit more of a sportier package to work with. As I said, it's not a sports car in the strict sense, but it's sportier than your average hatch. Overall, I'm still not a huge fan of the Tigra. I don't really like the way the car looks. It's kind of dumpy. But the fact is, for its PP, for its price, for its spec, it is most certainly not just not a bad car, but it is a good car. It's an interesting alternative, certainly to the small, say 100 horsepower or so sports cars or sports coupes that are on the game. And overall, you may want to give the car a try. But that's it for this episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.